What's good, YouTube? This is the Only Big Green Yu-Gi-Oh! And I am back with another deck profile. This deck profile is a retro deck, and if you guys can't guess already with the two Dark Arm Dragons, it is Tele-Dad. This deck back then was very, very good, and it was Tier 0. And if you guys don't know what that means, Tier 0 is where there was only one deck and one deck only that would just constantly win, and there was no really way of beating it other than the mirror match. Arguably, you guys could say Glad Beasts and Lightsworns were an alternative to this, but they still was not coming nowhere near to touching this deck. This deck would completely the top 16 would be all just Tele-Dad. Top 32, I forgot what event it was just straight up just Tele-Dad. The closest thing that I've seen since this deck would probably be like Dragon Rulers or Pepe or Zodiacs. But other than those decks, like this deck was absolutely one of the strongest decks that I think I have ever seen and laid my eyes on. The reason why I've waited this long to bring you guys this video is I actually got a second copy done, so that way me and my friends can play with. So I was just like, now that I got the second copy done, let me just upload the deck profile to YouTube. So anyways, let's get right into the video. Starting off, you play the two dads. I would be playing 3, but in this format that I'm playing, Dad was only at 2 for a good reason. This guy probably should have been banned instead of 2. But anyways, if you guys don't know what this does, he's the best card. He's the boss monster of the deck. If you control exactly 3 dark monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this guy from your hand. And he cannot be normal summoned. So that's the only way of getting him. But considering all the graveyard effects, you can control your graveyard pretty easily to have the exact 3 darks. His other effects is you can remove from play one of your dark monsters to pop a card on the field. So this guy, if you normally got him out, the turn you get him out, you're probably going to win that turn, especially if you have something like a Goyo Guardian or a Stardust Dragon on the board to pair him with. It's just a GG at that point. And then we have the other boss monster, the one Caius. 2, way too many. 3 is way too many. Playing 0 is definitely not enough. You definitely want to at least play one of this guy. If you guys don't know what he does, you tribute a monster, and then whenever he's tribute summoned, he banishes a card on the field, and he has to banish. So if your opponent has no cards and you have only one monster and you tribute and summon him, you are forced to banish him, which sucks. So be conservative of Caius. Don't just lay him down anytime. I would normally only summon him when your opponent has like a Stardust Dragon, or if your opponent has one of these boys and they somehow didn't win the turn they summoned him. Also, if the card you targeted just so happened to be a dark monster, they take 1,000 damage whenever it's banished. Next up, we play a little hero engine. The one Stratos, he was only at 1, or else you'd be playing more than 1. You guys pretty much should know what Stratos does. He just searches a card. And then for the engine, the hero engine, you play the 3 Mallies. This guy was insane back then. This guy, I believe, was like anywhere from $60 to $80 back then. So you can see where this deck was super expensive. At one point, this deck was like over $2,000 to build, because the data loans were anywhere from like $200 to $300. Anyways, Mallie is a good Destiny draw target, because whenever he's in the graveyard, you can banish him to special summon another one out from your deck. So you definitely want to open up at least one Mallie in a Destiny draw to just straight up just wreck your opponent. And plus, playing the 2 Diamond Dudes. 2 is all you really need. You could probably go down to 1 with him, but I would still play 2, just so you could see him every now and then. Of course, he's searchable by Stratos, along with Mallie is as well. This guy, what he does is whenever he's normal summoned, you can send to grave the top card of your deck. If it's a normal spell card, then you get to activate it during your next turn. And then if it's anything else that's not a normal spell, it just goes to the bottom of your deck. So this guy can really bring you back into the game if you hit something like a Monster Reborn, or you hit a Brain Control or a Heavy or something like that. It's really, really good. And then lastly, for your little hero engine, you play the one Doom Lord. This guy is really good because he's a searchable target for Crush Card Virus. And yes, Crush Card Virus was legal in this format. And that's one of the only main reasons you should use him. Although he does have a banish effect, kind of like Caius, where he can deal with something if there's a problematic card your opponent controls. Next up, the tuner lineup. You play the 3 Krebons. He has an effect where you can pay 800 life points to negate an attack whenever he's targeted for an attack. But his other main thing is that he is a psychic, which you play 3 emergency teleports. So if you open up an E-Tele, a Mally, and like a D-Draw, you're guaranteed to have a Stardust Dragon and probably then some that turn, which is really, really busted, especially in this format. And then of the last tuners, you play the 1 Plague Spreader Zombie. I just like, there's some people that don't play this card, but I play him at least 1 because he's a recursion card. You can bring him back by returning the top card up from your hand into the deck, and then he special summons himself. You can synchro, so there's some cheeky things that you can do with him. And then on to just the beefy monsters. You play the Breaker because he's a walking MST. You play the Dark Grepher because this guy with Mally is also another good combo where you can discard Mally, special summon him, and then discard another Dark to send to grave a Dark. It sets up some cool synchro plays. He's virtually a free Goyo Guardian, or if you have the Mally in hand, he's a free Stardust Dragon. And then for the last of the monsters, we play the 1 Spirit Reaper for stalling, and then of course picking a card out of the opponent's hand if they have nothing and you swing directly. And then the 1 Sangan. Sangan's really good because he can search out your Spirit Reaper. He can search out your Doom Lord. Well, virtually, he can search out pretty much the entire Destiny Hero engine. He can search all of your tuners out. So he grabs pretty much everything in the deck except the Stratos and your boss monsters. Of course, you're definitely going to want to play him. On to the spells. You play the 3 Destiny draws. Like I said earlier in the video, these things with Mallies are just so good. The amount of plussing that you get off of these are insane if you pair it with Mally. You discard a hero and then draw 2 cards. And again, if you discard Mally, you can banish Mally to special summon Mally, make some synchros. It's nuts. And then, except you play the 3 Allure of Darkness. For obvious reasons, draw 2 cards and then banish a dark monster. If you have no dark monster, you discard your hand, but considering every card in the deck is a dark monster except Stratos, you're going to have a dark monster. And then one of the best spells in the deck, the 3 E-Tele. I wish that all of my E-Teles were ultis like this one, but hey, at least I've got the E-Teles. This card here, all it does is really special summons out your Karebons, and it's very versatile. Like if it's on your opponent's turn and you're pretty low on health, like if you're around 2,000 health or left, whenever they go into battle phase, you can just activate E-Tele and then set up a Karebons just like that, and then just start paying 8 to keep him alive and negating their attacks to hopefully buy a turn. And then of course there's also the aggressive E-Tele play where if there's a Mally in grave, you banish the Mally to special summon the Mally, and then you just go E-Tele to summon the Karebons. And depending on what your opponent has, you can synchro or do other cheeky things with it. Next up, the 2 Rotas. Of course you're going to want to play 2 Rotas because you can search the Mally, you can search the Stratos, and then you can search the Dark Grepher, and where's Doom Lord? You can search the Doom Lord off of it. You get the point. Like, you can pretty much just search, again, you can search almost every card in your deck off of Reinforcement, just like how Sangan can search almost every card in your deck. Of course, you're going to want to play that as well. Next up, the big 4 of the spell cards. Pretty much every deck list back then played these 4. The 1 MST, the 1 Heavy, the 1 Brain Control, the 1 Reborn. If you open up with any of these, you're looking pretty good to set up a pretty decent board or being able to contain your opponent. On to the trap cards, we play the 3 Solemn Judgment. Yes, Solemn Judgment was at 3 in this format. Of course it would be at 3 in this format. If you guys don't know what this card does already, pay half your life points, negate a monster summon, a spell activation, or a trap activation. Virtually, it just negates almost anything. And I say almost any, not everything, but almost anything it negates. And this card that I'm about to show you, you guys might disagree with me only playing 1 of it, because most people play 2 of this card and even 3, but I only play 1. The Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. You discard 1 card to return a card your opponent controls to the top of their deck. A lot of people play this card at 3 mainly because of the interactions with things like Mally, the interactions with things like Plague Spreader and things like that. And it's a good interruption, but with you playing like 3 Judgment and all the other stuff that you can set up, the E-Tellies to stall if you use it, like I said, I don't really think you should really need more than 1 of this card, but you can definitely play 2 or 3 of this if that's your preference. And then next up, the One Crush card, Virus. This is the errated version. Of course, back then there was the no erratas, so ignore the errata on this thing. And again, you definitely can splash this card. You can activate this card and use Mally as your tribute. Where is it? You could use like Sangin as your tribute, wherever he is over here. You could use Spirit Reaper as your tribute, or like one of the best targets for it would be like your Doom Lord, because your Doom Lord is searchable through everything in this deck. So this card is really good at splashing in and being versatile with all the other monsters and compatible with things. And then next up, the One Trap Dust Shoot. Look at during your opponent's standby phase, if they have 4 or more cards, you can activate it. Look at your opponent's hand and then return a monster to the deck. Very, very broken. It's still banned to this day. And then the next card I'm going to show you is also still banned to this day. Royal Oppression. It's a continuous trap card, obviously. And then whenever a monster would be special summoned, you can pay 800 life points to negate it. Your opponent can also pay the 8. So be in mind, don't just go and flip this thing up right away. I wouldn't flip this thing up until I've got something out like a Dark Armed, or I've got something out like a Stardust or Goyo Guardian, something that I know I can control the game with. That's when I would normally activate this card, or as a last resort when your opponent's about to go ham on you, you want to do this. And then next up are the Synchros. A fair warning, my Synchro deck, or the extra deck, is not complete. It's only 13 cards, but that's just because I don't want to get copies of all the other stuff like duplicates. So definitely play duplicates of certain things. But anyways, the One Magical Android, it's a Psychic. You gain 600 life for each Psychic. Your Krebons is Psychic, and it's searchable off of E-Telly. It's searchable off of Sangin. So of course you definitely want to play this thing. The One Gaia, you could possibly play 2, but I would still leave this guy at 1. He's really just a big beater to get over things like Stardust. Next up, the 2 Goyo. You could also play this guy at 3. This guy, that's the errata version. This is the OG effect. Whenever you attack and destroy a monster after damage calculation, you get to take that monster and put it in defense mode. So definitely this is the one you would want to go into if you're going into level 6. Definitely go into him more. This guy's just, again, a resort to things. And then a Revived King Hades. You don't really have to play this guy. Another card is Doom Kaiser Dragon. You don't have to play that guy. I just play the Revived King Hades. He's virtually Hades from the GOAT format deck, if you guys seen that where I do that. He's Hades from my GOAT format deck, just in a synchro form, where whenever a zombie monster destroys a monster by battle, it does not activate its effects. No Sangin effects and stuff like that. It's not really super good, but again, it's an option. The One Psychic Life Transfer, you don't really even have to play this either, but you can if you want to. It's just pretty much like another magical android, just something to gain health off of. Next up, the 2 Black Rose. I'm going to apologize for what I did to this one. I done this when I was in 7th grade, and I wish I could go back in time and grab my hand and the black and the red marker and say, do not do that to that card. I need to be slapped for this. But yeah, it sucks to see that. Anyways, you could probably play 3 of this card, but I think 2 is fine. It's a good board nuke because Dark Hole was banned in this format, and the only really other board nukes that you had was like TT, Mirror Force, which those were too slow for this format to play. Other than like maybe TT, that wasn't too slow. And then the, what's it called? Lightning Vortex, I think it is, where you discard a card and then destroy all face-up attack position monsters your opponent controls. The 2 Stardust, this is another guy that you could play at 3 if you wanted to, but this guy is self-explanatory. If you played back then in this format, or you know what this format is, if you can end a board on Stardust and Dark Armed, you're most likely winning your turn. You're most likely winning the game once it gets back to your turn if your opponent can't deal with it. the 1 red dragon. You can also put this guy up to 2 if you want. This guy's just good for if your opponent has Spirit Reapers or they're trying to stall out with the Krebons in defense or something like that. You can attack something else or something. And then Thunder Ruler Archfiend, another guy that you could play at 2. Virtually all of the 1-ofs you could play at 2 in this deck if you wanted to. This guy's just, again, another option for situational plays. And then the 1 Colossal Fido, he is really good at dealing with Goyo Guardians because of the immense warriors that you play and stuff. You can crash into things and stuff, crash into Goyos, take the Goyos and things like that. Also, he can get bigger and bigger and bigger, depending on the amount of warrior monsters that you have in your graveyard. And again, all the warriors that you're playing in this deck, you're going to have a big amount. I would not be surprised if every game you bring this guy out, he's at least like a 32 beater or something insane like that. Other synchros that I did not mention that you also have to your use if you wanted to play would be like Iron Chain Dragon. He's another guy if you want your opponent to mill or something. Again, but that's another situational card that you really probably don't need. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I was wanting to wait to bring it to you just because, again, I finally got the 2nd copy of the deck built. So I was like, I'm going to finally bring it to you guys. And I definitely want to play this format for fun with some friends. So for those of you that go to my locals and stuff, you guys know who you are. If I'm ever there and you're ever there on a day and you want to play Tele-Dad, let's play it. It's a fun format. Also, there is priority in this format, which is another annoying thing, but oh well. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this retro deck profile. And just thank you for viewing my channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.